Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay, what is user context? It holds information about the user, like current settings, authorizations. Uh, current settings can be, current settings will be like currency settings, date, number, format, language, and things like that. Authorizations are function authorizations, which is authorizations for specific T codes in FI or MM or whatever, etc. So specific T codes are assigned, like for example, ME21 and BF01, ME21 and is purchase order. BF01 is sales order, and username is let's say it was like SAP. So I will authorize both these transactions. T codes ME21N plus BF01. So I have authorization for this T codes, then I cannot run any other T code that's authorization. Okay. Plus user context also holds current information about current session. Programs that user is running, screens the user is running right now. Okay. So if we look at it, this is the presentation layer, GUI. From there, it communicates with dispatcher, and dispatcher is communicating with work processes and handing over work request to work processes, where it is handled in various phases, like screen processor, ABAP logic interpreter, or database interface. Database interface connects with the database. And the user context is basically supervising the whole process, and the application buffer will have screens, tables, and objects. So this is a shared memory which is in use along with the database working with the work process, as simple as that. So database layer, what is database? This is the database layer. Okay. So database layer has database layer is where DB layer. What is that? It has data sets. Okay. It also carries uh, program structures or components. Okay. And the database in the database layer. So it has all application data, which means it has logic, programs, structures, tables, all in one place. And all these joined together is called a package. Okay. The packages reside in database. So we have ABAP source code, admin data, and everything is all here. So in database, of course, the work processes work between application level and database level, and various job queues are handled by dispatcher, and this is how SAP landscape is distributed. So buffer as we have seen, there's a buffer, a storage where it handles all user request like currencies, company codes, customizing data, which can be simplified as what it does. It keeps by default data, which is date, company name, or call it company code. Okay. And username or credentials. These are some of the things. Okay. Currencies, conversion rates. Okay. So this is kept in the buffer so that it can compute results or formulas, logic on real-time basis. Okay. So another concept, this will also clarify how it actually works. The dispatcher works with the interpreter level, ABAP interpreter using OpenSQL. It interacts with database interface, which is working in parallel with local buffer. Okay. So ABAP interpreter also has special access to database also. Okay. Using native SQL. Okay. Native SQL as the language for the database. So what ABAP does is process data from the database, and it takes inputs from the GUI presentation layer and works with the database layer, the buffer, and the interpreter. Okay, that's how it works. So let me open up next lecture and we'll start off. So what are data structures in SAP? That we'll see today, and then we'll cover the programs in the next lecture. We have client-specific data and cross-client data. Okay. Client-specific data or cross-client. Now, what is the difference? Client is not the company or the client, the boss. No, not that, not the customer. No, the client is basically the SAP landscape. SAP landscape means SAP server that you're working on. And SAP server has three instances, three clients: development, QA, PRD, production. Okay, production as in live data. So that is client. Okay, the server is called client. So client specific will be like configuration, which is not transferred or transported to another, which means
Excuse me, sir.
configuration data, ABAP programs, structures, tables, packages, which reside in one server, which means they are not transported. They're just used on one server. Server means it can be a development server or QA server or PRD server. Okay, that's client-specific data. Okay, client-specific data, it remains in just one server. Cross-client is like moving configuration or programs to another client or another server. Okay, that is cross-client customize it. We move configuration from development server to QA server. So a client is a unit within SAP that is self-contained in terms of business, organization, and data. So a client has its own business data environment, master and transactional data, and user data. Okay. So in a client, what can we have? Business data, user data, configuration data, and master data, okay, and transaction data. So we can transfer this from client to client, and that will be transaction data. So we can move this data from client to client. Okay. So this data is in one client, which means it is client specific. But if it is moved to another client, like from development to QA server, then it is cross-client data. Okay. Repository, what is that? A repo. A repo is basically a storage where all the programs, logic, or tables are stored in a structure, okay, in a hierarchy, okay. So it has all the development objects and it carries all the ABAP workbench. It is cross-client. I mean, available to multiple clients at one time. It has dictionary of tables, data elements, domains, programs, screens, and everything about ABAP is in the repo. So repo objects are grouped together to form packages. Now, all these programs, structures, tables, configuration put together becomes a package. Simple as. So what are packages? These are contained for semantically linked development objects like programs, tables, and stuff like that. Okay. So like this. Client 100 is development, let's say it's development server. Client 200 is QA server. It has all the data, user data, transaction master data, and everything. But the repo for ABAP tables, programs, objects, workbench, development object, everything is residing in the repository. And that is available to both the clients. Okay. So when we are speaking of ABAP programming, we are speaking of the application layer. All the programs, the repos are residing here. Okay. As simple as that. So applications in SAP are made using ABAP, which is event driven. You call an event like pulling an object or running a T code, that's event driven, or storing a data, that is event driven programming. So in our landscape of ABAP, what do we have? These are the tools: ABAP editor that we'll see in SAP server, data dictionary, screen painter, menu painter, and many other tools as well. These are the transaction codes that we'll use, and we'll see how an ABAP code is written that actually calls for